Akhandamandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sarvebhyo Namaha. Welcome to the seventh session in our Bhagavad-gita systematic study module. Since the last class, we have been discussing the three gunas of Prakriti. We continue from where we left off last time. I will also do a quick review when I begin. We began by saying that understanding the three gunas of Prakriti well helps us to better understand our own swabhav, which influences our mental states, tendencies, preferences, behaviors, and so on. It also helps us to understand other people's swabhav, their intentions, behavior, and so on. And then we also get the answer to go beyond swabhav. How do we do that? And seek out our deep inner happiness. Then we understand how bhakti is a process to go beyond the gunas and to connect with Bhagavan. So this understanding of the three gunas is very important to understand Bhagavad-gita well. Then how Sri Bhagavan introduces them in the fifth sloka of the 14th chapter. We touched upon the overview. Three gunas are sattva, rajas, and tamas. And Vishuddha sattva is the state of existence which is beyond the three gunas. We did an overview like this, that all living beings in samsara are bound by the three gunas. These gunas always coexist and together bind the living being. But at any given time, one of them predominates the other two. They influence all aspects of material existence, samsara, including our clarity of thought, clarity of mind, consciousness, our preferences, work-related preferences, lifestyle-related preferences, etc. So therefore, they are not an abstract concept only. They actually act, we can experience them. Once we understand them, we know how we are experiencing them, and we can make decisions to alter the way we experience them. Very important, the Varna-wise classification of work, how work is defined and directed in the Indian knowledge system, is also understood well if we understand the three gunas, and it's because it's based on them. Freedom from the three gunas is mukti, and prema, which is the uttama purushartha, is based on, it sort of includes mukti. And Bhagavan and the mukta jivas are always free of them. We touched upon all these points last time. We saw this figure, which is like a encompassing framework for Bhagavad-gita, in which the three main ontological entities, Bhagavan or Paramatma, Jivatma, and Prakriti, are listed. And we saw that Prakriti is where we are focused now, the three gunas of Prakriti. Then we touched upon the topic of Maya. Maya is the energy, or Maya is the conscious being under whose adhyakshatva the three gunas of Prakriti function. So the three gunas of Prakriti are like the ropes of Maya. We distinguish between Mahamaya and Yoga Maya. Then we said Bhagavan himself, Bhagavan conducts himself like an ordinary human being when he manifests before us, but he is not one. He is always beyond the gunas of Prakriti. Okay, then we said in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is devoted to understanding the three gunas in some detail, the general influences of the gunas on the living beings are explained, and we summarize them like this: Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva is the guna under which the consciousness, the mind, etc., feel more pure. There is a feeling of knowledge, illumination, contentment, happiness, strength, vitality, the elimination of stress and anxiety, etc. And if someone dies when they leave their body, if they are in the state of sattva, then they will move to a higher state of existence. In the case of rajas, rajas fosters the feelings of craving, greed, attachment to material position, matter, material enjoyment, and it rewards one with more anxiety, stress, misery. And if someone dies in a state predominantly rajasic, then they take birth among similar materialistic people, of course, based on the karma. And tamas is the direct opposite of sattva. Everywhere we will see this. Tamas and Sattva are opposites, are like producing opposite qualities, opposite outcomes. And Tamas fosters darkness, confusion, ignorance, negligence, delusion, intoxication, madness, laziness, sleep, depression, dejection, which I have not written here. And also eventually rewards that person with a future existence among ignorant people, among dull people, downwards, or when the state of tamas is very high, then among the animal world, downwards, not in the human birth again. So these are the general influences. Now, in today's class, we will focus on specific influences of the gunas. But before I go there, I will take the questions that Ashita and Vedangi have sent me. Ashita writes like this: I believe parenting plays a prominent role. A child observes his or her parents and imitates their behaviors. Parents also play a role model in a child's life and regulates the child's behaviors and habits. Parents have predominant sattvic guna, they will exhibit those behaviors that will facilitate shaping the child's life. According to me, parenting style and supervision are critical. Parents can meditate with their child from a very young age, avoid using social media, feed the child from their hands by talking to them, read storybooks for them, and so on. The child's mind is tabula rasa, clean slate. So her question is, do we have anything synonymous with tabula rasa in our case? Now, what I understand by this term, which is a Latin term and is discussed in Western philosophy, is that, uh, you know, when a child is born, when a new living being takes birth, when a human being is born as a small baby, then its mind is completely clean and it doesn't have any knowledge of this world, and then it starts learning. So, depending on what is fed into that mind, the child's life will be shaped, style thinking, and the life later on will be shaped. Well, in the Indian knowledge system, too, the understanding that we don't accept this tabula rasa as it is described in the Western literature. That's one thing I can clearly say. I'll explain why. But we do accept that the shaping of the character of the child can be done to a good degree from its early age. The younger we start shaping the child, the easier it is to shape it. So, age and its influence on learning, the connection between early age and good learning or permanency of learning, or the way in which learning is shaped, character is shaped, is accepted. So, in that sense, the theory connected to tabula rasa is matching. Where it doesn't match is the understanding that we carry forward samskara from our past life. And that samskara plays a big role in the way in which a person shapes up, regardless of the learning. Let's say that two people, let's say twins, let's say, okay, to make this understanding more clear, let's say twins are born to parents, and because they are born as twins, they're exactly the same age as each other, and the parents put them through the same treatment. They go through everything in the same way. They're fed together, they're bathed together, they sleep together, they play together, they go to the same school, they sit in the same class, probably next to each other. We have all seen twins in our schools. We've interacted with them, and we've seen how they go through very similar program in their life. Everything is the same, but still differences appear between them. When they grow up and they become adults, we see that they display different types of tendencies. Also, that there will still be similarities between them, but there is very clear distinction also. Abilities differ. It may happen in some cases that one child is interested in science, the other one is interested in arts and humanities, which totally reflect different types of orientation, academic orientation, intellectual orientation, preferences. So where did these differences come from? If tabula rasa was the only thing that applied, where everything was given to them was identical, and so because they began with a completely clean slate, there was nothing in the beginning. All the inputs were identical. Then they should turn out to be identical till their death, right? But it doesn't happen that way. We can see so many examples, and of course, Even though we see similarities, there are many cases of twins where there is a lot of difference between them. I'm talking about twins of the same gender. Okay, now you can say gender-based differences will come if the twins are of different genders. But even when they are of the same gender, which we see in many cases, there are so many differences between them. So this is also because the samskara that is there in the jivatma, which the jivatma carries with it from one birth to another birth until it gets mukti. Uh, that samskara plays a major role along with the inputs that are given in the given life. So it's not tabula rasa, which means it is not a clean slate that the child is born with. The Atma comes into a birth not with a clean slate, with samskara. The samskara is already present on the slate, right? And now, because it's a child, the all the samskaras don't manifest at that point. The samskaras slowly, the what do you call the child's different decisions and so on. Even though samskara is present, the decisions and the different they appear at different stages of life. When the child is a baby, it can hardly do anything. It's completely dependent. Its psychology, its this thing, everything is dependent on the mother and the father. But only as it grows, it gets strength, ability to think, and so on. So the samskara then starts unfurling its influence on the child's decisions and preferences and so on. Just because it's not visible doesn't mean it's not there. Okay, so it appears like a clean slate, but it's not a clean slate. So this is where the Western understanding is lacking. Why? Because this understanding comes from what we call the Shastra, what we accept as the Shastra, the texts like Bhagavad-gita, the Bhagavata, the Veda to begin with, and the Upanishads and everything. Altogether, this is something the Western world doesn't accept or doesn't know about also. Okay, those of them who know about it, many of them actually accept it also. They read it, they understand, they adopt in their lives. I've seen people, you so must have seen Westerners who study Indian philosophy and their life is influenced by it. They accept samskara. But all these theories by Western philosophers, they come without this understanding. They're just based on pure observation. So therefore, it's not tabula rasa. And uh, so the only thing that we have synonymous with tabula rasa is that yes, the training that we give also influences the shapes along with the samskara. So do you have a follow-up question on that?
No, sir.
So we have discussed Vishuddha Sattva, which is not bound by the three gunas. So yeah, Sarthak wants to ask something or say something.
Sir, I had actually a follow-up question on this.
Hmm.
So the ult- underlying axiom over here for samskaras is rebirth, and you talked about the research that has happened in that is accepted even in the Western literature, done by Professor Ian Stevenson and others. Sir, I wanted to know that I don't know the reasoning which is provided by the Indian school. So what I have known is that the Buddhists have a very strong rigor in terms of logic and reasoning, and so
Hmm.
do the Naiyayikas, although their approach towards logic and reasoning is very different. So,
Hmm.
if so I do not want to know at on this platform exactly what is the reasoning or what are the logics, but
Hmm.
can the Nyaya based reasoning be accepted in the Western I mean the PhD framework wherein you can posit this reasoning to claim that yes, there is a rebirth and this is the logic and reason behind it. So is the Western literature open to this viewpoint as well?
Well, you see, you can bring it like this. You can bring it as beliefs of people. Why do, for example, if you have a research question about why in India, Indian managers take decisions like this, then you can pursue an answer which is like Indian managers are influenced by the Indian philosophical understanding of samskara. They believe that they were having a past birth. They believe that this birth is not their last birth. This birth is only an intermediate birth and they will have future births. They believe in karma. They believe in samskara. And therefore they take decisions like this. So you can use it to, you can bring it in this way to explain how Indian managers and Indian employees and so on, Indian leaders take decisions and so on. So this way. But you can't say this is a correct theory. This theory is a theory by which all management should be guided. This is something, if you have to say that, then you have to uh, establish it much deeper among the Western world, which is not currently accepted. Western world currently, the dominant conversations in the Western world today to explain behavior and thinking and so on are draw upon various theories, and from the scientific world, for example, they draw upon neurology. Today there's a lot of discussion which explains human thinking from neurological explanations, how the neurons and the chemicals in the brain, the structure of the brain, a lot of discussion as I see even in the leadership literature centered around that. That is accepted. Those theories are accepted. But samskara, if I say because of this samskara, this leader did this, that won't be accepted. I can say that because the leader believes like that. Based on that belief, their perception, the leader's perception is like that, and therefore the leader took that decision. That might be accepted because beliefs and mental mindsets, uh, mental frameworks, mental models, these are accepted in the literature. You get what I'm saying? There's a difference
Yes, sir.
between.
Yes, sir. So, yes, definitely. So, here what we are talking about is that we can say that, okay, this is how the beliefs system or the value system, this is how they are guiding the decision making processes of different managers and then work on it.
Yeah,
So, what I was asking about is so, yes, this is one part, and maybe what we are treating as an axiom that, okay, behind every effect there has to be an underlying cause, and since your
mm,
birth is an effect per se, you should have a previous birth. So
mm,
I just wanted to know that, like we prove theorems in mathematics, that okay, this is a Pythagoras the theorem, and how we are arriving at a proof. So does the Nyaya philosophy provide, say, a proof using the semantics or something like that,
yeah,
where
yeah,
this does not remain only a belief, but using logic and reasoning, you can see that, oh, this makes sense, something like that.
yes, yes, yes. Of course it does. Nyaya concludes everything by reasoning. For Nyaya, the Veda is not the Uttama Pramana. The Uttama
Hmm.
Pramanam is Anumana.
Correct.
Anumana is the Uttama Pramana. Among the four Pramanas that Nyaya accepts, Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, and Shabda. Among these four, Anumana is considered supreme. So even the existence of Ishvara, Bhagavan, in Nyaya is argued out through logic. Through Anuman, we arrive at the understanding that there is a being called Ishvara. You understood? Who doesn't have a cause. Ishvara doesn't have a cause. Similarly, the Jivatma doesn't have a cause, and Jivatma is different from Ishvara. All this is logically argued out, not based on the Veda. Then Veda is taken to support it.
Hmm.
Veda is understood not as Apaurushaya. In Vedanta, we understand Veda as Apaurushaya, Shruti.
Hmm.
But in Nyaya, Veda is Paurushaya. It is created by Ishvara. Ishvara is the only
Okay.
supreme cause of everything.
Okay.
That
Okay.
also comes by reasoning. So, which means things like karma, samskara, karma phalam, everything comes by reasoning only and supported by
Yes.
the Veda. So, Veda Vakya is used to support it. See, Veda also says, which means Ishvara also
Hmm.
agrees with it. It's not only Anumana
Hmm.
which says, but Ishvara also agrees, so that is given as additional support.
Yes, yes. So basically, just for one's understanding, not exactly a PhD work also. So if one believes that, okay, yes, you have a rebirth, so then there is no thing like it. But still, if someone wants to delve deeper, then this Nyaya provides a way as per the Veda, in accordance to Veda, that
Yes.
how a person gets rebirth and what is the logic and reasoning behind it,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not completely illogical, or someone said it, or the Vedas are saying it, so we are just taking it for granted. So we can point to this using logic
Yeah.
and reasoning as well.
Yeah. 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 Very much. Very much. In fact,
Yes.
the scholars of Vedanta, including Advaita Vedanta draws heavily upon Nyaya, heavily upon the structure of Nyaya. So all Advaita Vedanta scholars have to study Nyaya, if they have to be scholarly Advaita Vedantis. And likewise, because Advaita Vedanta requires it, all the other schools of Vedanta also require it. Because they all show their contrast with Advaita, right? So to show the contrast
Yes.
with Advaita, they have to go through Nyaya. That is why, for example, in Dvaita, in Madhva's Dvaita Siddhanta, Nyaya plays a very dominant role. Similarly, in the Gaudiya Siddhanta also,
Mm.
Maharaji was a great
Mm.
Nyaya scholar. If you see his degrees, if you see Maharaji's list of degrees on his book, Nyaya features more there than Vedanta. He has more degrees in Nyaya than in Vedanta. Of course, uh, Nyaya is the tool. It's just like the relation between mathematics and physics. To be a
Yes,
good
yes, yes,
physicist,
yes, yes.
to be a good physicist, you need to have solid mathematics knowledge,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Something like that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir,
Mm.
before we proceed ahead, I would just like to point out that your video is getting a little hazy for me. If Ashita, you could confirm.
Yeah, I
And now it
noticed
is.
that my camera has some problem focusing at this
Oh,
distance. Okay, I'll look at it after this class to see if I can correct that
so it
focusing.
is getting into tamas.
Okay,
Okay.
maybe
Thank you, sir.
it's finding this philosophy too much for it. We'll go to the next question of Ashita. We also discussed Vishuddha Sattva, which is not bound by the three gunas. What are the characteristics of Vishuddha Sattva? How can one become Vishuddha Sattva? Uh, the characteristics of Vishuddha Sattva are described in Gita as a place where there is Atyanta Sukham, complete clarity, complete knowledge, sense of perfection. That is not there in Sattva Guna also. In Sattva Guna, there is still Ahankara present, that I am this, I am an intelligent person, I am so and so, I am a great scholar, I am so that identity with the body is still there in Sattva Guna. But in Vishuddha Sattva, there is no such identity with the material body or the mind. It is pure experience of oneself. And how one can become or one can reach that stage is through Bhagavad Sharanagati. Only through his Mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. 7th chapter, 14th shloka. So only by taking his refuge, and that is through the process of bhakti. Or what does bhakti mean? Like I described earlier, bhakti does not merely mean singing songs or emotionally, talking about Bhagavan. Bhakti is seva bhav, doing seva, free from swartha bhav, existing in a state of seva bhav, practicing and nurturing that seva bhav, and aspiring for that prema. That is the path of bhakti. So through that process of bhakti, developing seva bhav and aspiring for prema, one goes beyond the three gunas. Otherwise, by doing any other form of practice, any kind of dhyana, japa, to strengthen the mind, to experience more sattva, one does not go into Vishuddha sattva, one only experiences more sattva. That is why Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga makes one more and more sattvic. By doing Karma Yoga seriously, one's Rajas and Tamas decrease and Sattva Guna becomes very high. The influence of Rajas and Tamas decreases and Sattva Guna becomes very high. And when one continues to do Jnana Yoga after Karma Yoga, then Sattva Guna becomes even higher and becomes very, very sattvic. But to become Vishuddha sattvic, then one has to take the refuge of Bhagavan. One has to perform bhakti. Any follow-up question on that, Ashita?
So is it possible to be in the like to achieve Visuddha Sattva stage and be in that stage only?
Yeah, before we die. Yes, it is possible. In the current life, when one has taken complete Sharanagati of Bhagavan, then one automatically goes by Bhagavad Kripa, one goes into Vishuddha Sattva all the time. And that's possible. And that's many great saints have lived like that. If you see their activities, you'll realize that this person cannot be under even the Sattva Guna. He cannot be bound even by that because the kind of extraordinary activities they perform in terms of their intellectual ability or their their physical activities like staying up, like Sri Haridas Thakur, one simple example, who was doing japa 23 hours a day, 23 and a half, nearly 24 hours a day. He was doing non-stop japa of Bhagwan's Naam, Harinam, and then having just a little bit of food to maintain the body, to keep the body alive, and doing that continuously for a long period of time. That's not normally possible even for a person with very high sattva guna. So with somebody in Vishuddha Sattva, it won't be like something difficult. So it's not struggling. If anybody normally has to do that, try to do that. Let's say there are people who stay up continuously for 3 days or 4 days because they are doing some project or they're doing something extraordinary. They don't sleep at all. They non-stop stay awake. They struggle to do that. They're not in a normal state of mind. They would be in a very different state of mind to do that. It would be a struggle. They'll be pushing themselves and waiting for that to get over. But Haridas Thakur is not waiting for it to get over. He's only wanting to do more and more of it because he's in a state of complete bliss as he does that. He's completely relaxed. He's not struggling. So that is Vishuddha Sattva. When you are in a completely natural state where you don't need sleep, you don't need food, you don't need anything that we normally need to remain stable, right? Medically stable. Arjuna in Bhagavad-gita is described as being like that in that state. Arjuna did not require sleep at all. So of course, not requiring sleep is a indication that he is completely free from tamas. But yes, like I said, even somebody in high sattva guna has some amount of tamas in them. Then they would require some amount of sleep at least per day. Although, yes, when you go into higher states of sattva, the dependence on sleep and food and things comes down as you go towards Vishuddha Sattva. But you are not free from them. So, yes, it is possible to be in Vishuddha Sattva, and there have been many examples of that in society in the past, in the form of great saintly people. For us, the immediate focus is to be on Sattva. We should not think, we should be aware that Vishuddha Sattva is our goal, but our immediate goal is to be more sattvic, to eliminate rajas and tamas, and live a life that is very consistently sattvic, not go into higher states of rajas and tamas in between. Should not be like fluctuating, should be stably in more and more and more sattva, going only in that direction. So if we are able to achieve that much also, that is a lot of achievement. And that time, once we have done that, then we can think of the Vishuddha Sattva state. But doing bhakti begins now. It's bhakti which takes us to that. By doing bhakti, automatically we become sattvic. Practices of bhakti are oriented like that to make us more and more sattvic. Good. Now going forward, Vedangi also asked a few questions, and her questions are under these three heads. So I've listed them, and even though she's not here, I'll continue to talk about them so that she can watch the recording later and ask me further questions after that. Triguna and leadership. Can Triguna theory predict ethical behavior of management leaders? Yes, it can, because we can relate sattva, rajas, and tamas, and we can say that, for example, things like being sattvic is more favorable to being more ethical. Ethical behavior is favored by sattva guna, and unethical behavior is favored by rajoguna, tamoguna, and so on. So therefore, a relationship between the gunas and ethical behavior, ethicality of behavior can be easily argued from our Triguna theory. Yes. Does the strength of one's bhakti increase their sattva guna, thereby influencing ethical leadership style? Yes, very much. Like I just mentioned, the practices of bhakti naturally take us towards more sattva. For example, getting up early in the morning and doing japa of Sri Bhagwan's name. So this makes us more sattvic. Even if we are not thinking about becoming sattvic, the outcome is that we become more sattvic. And the more seriously bhakti is performed, more genuinely that we perform bhakti, the faster we will become sattvic. And thereby, yes, ethical leadership will become better and better. We'll become more ethical in our leadership if we do that. No doubt about it. How does Triguna theory explain the differences in organizational culture? It can be used to explain. Yes, and her second question is related to that, so I'm showing that also. Does the composition of the three gunas among top management leaders influence and slash or shape the organizational culture? Does a predominantly Sattvika organizational culture cross over its Sattvika nature or transfer, influence the Sattvika nature of its employees? Yes, the answers to all of this is yes, yes, yes. Um, because once somebody is more Sattvic, they are naturally less greedy and they are more helpful to others. If you are more sattvic, naturally you would want to be more helpful and kind towards others. You would want to have more respect towards others. It naturally comes in being sattvic because it's knowledge producing, knowledge of our true identity, and the inclination to accept the existence of a higher reality, of Bhagavan, of Prakriti as a higher reality which we cannot see but influences us, to understand that we are part of a larger universal whole. We are not the center of this universe. All these are favored by being more sattvic. And therefore, if in an organization employees are trained to think in that way, are made aware of it, and they are able to accept it, then naturally the culture will get shaped and the culture will in turn shape the future employees who come. So both help shape each other. Culture shapes the employee's nature, their work qualities, and vice versa. Culture, after all, is built through employees only, right? So both shape each other. And so, yes, we can use Triguna theory to understand and to explain and predict leader behavior and in turn organizational culture as well. We can bring it into discussions on culture and so on. Very much possible. And our third theme is about trigunas and deviant workplace behaviors. How does triguna theory predict workplace deviance? Can we design triguna theory based interventions to correct workplace deviant behaviors? Very much. Again, here we can bring in, for example, how rajoguna and tamoguna, especially rajoguna, favors greed, the tendency to cheat, the tendency to do behaviors which are considered deviant behaviors in the workplace. Okay, there are so many terms in modern OB, and you can relate all of them to, uh, saying that because there's more rajas, there's more greed, there's more laziness because of laziness, which is favored by tamoguna. This kind of behavior is seen in the employee. How do we decrease that? These kind of questions can be asked. So yes, we can devise Triguna-based theory-based interventions to correct such behaviors too. We can, for example, talk about interventions which are favorable to introducing more sattva, like sattvic programs, meditation programs, programs which give employees more time. See now, one classic case that's going on live is the Indigo airline. I don't know if Satvik is aware. Satvik is following the. Sorry, Sarthak is following the news. Sarthak, are you following the news?
Yes, sir, it's pretty ubiquitous. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how Indigo using its monopoly is right. It's using its monopoly. It has 65% market share, which is very high, extremely high. So it has a kind of a monopoly. It's not a strict monopoly, but it's like monopoly. It's monopolistic competition, you can say, like where the organization says that even though the regulating authority has put some rules on us, we will show who we are and we will, decide how we want to implement those rules. And it doesn't really care, although it's outside, they are saying that we are sorry and this and that. But internally, that apology is somewhat superficial because they had all the time in the world to implement those rules and give the pilots the kind of rest and so on that they deserve to get, that they need to get for passenger safety and stuff like that. But the airline conveniently decided to ignore, given that it's focused on saving money. The airline's profitability has come because of its cost saving practices. Indigo is known for that, right? Indigo has very cleverly designed its practices based on, directed towards saving cost, bringing down operational expense heavily. And it has succeeded in doing that and become the only profitable airline. Practically speaking, it's the only profitable airline consistently since the last 20 years. And so Now, on the strength of all of that, they are able to ignore very strongly, and they are holding the country at ransom. It's called holding somebody at ransom. It's holding the whole country, the citizens of this country at ransom, make them dependent on you, and then say, now we will do whatever we want, and you have to just comply with us. So they are doing that, and so you can see how they definitely need some tribuna-based theory intervention to correct that thinking and say that we have to not ignore the basic considerations of human work and humanity and so on. So Ashita, you can actually go into the details of this case and think along the lines of sattva, rajas, and tamas, how greed for money, profitability, has driven airlines' decisions. Yes, so all these questions that Vedangi has raised are relevant questions, and they can all be answered. And Tribuna theory can be brought into all of them, answering all of them, and doctoral work can be done. I'm pretty confident it can be done. I'm also confident because there is already now literature existing in the management field, academic literature, which has already introduced trigunas. So you don't have to introduce trigunas now. Already it's introduced, and Western authors also have written on it. So for you to continue from there will not be so difficult. And to make a thesis using triguna theory is not so difficult. It's very much possible. You can explore that. You can explore. Both of you can explore. Okay. Do any of you have any follow-up question based on all this, or shall we move forward for today?
So
Okay.
I was trying to integrate Indian leadership style and Tribuna theory, but for integrating these two, I couldn't find any research paper.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Of course, Kumar Alok's paper itself brings the two together. No, Tribuna theory is brought into the whole theory of leadership there. So that is, you cannot say you don't find any paper because you're studying his course and he has asked you to study that paper. So that is the indicator that even a top-ranked journal like Journal of Business Ethics is welcome to publishing papers which bring in Tribuna theory and show leadership, connection to leadership. So you have a big opportunity there. You can definitely do it. You can definitely do it. And given that he's himself teaching you and you are in touch with him, and the opportunity to include him as a part of your TAC, IAC, and work with him. So given all this, I'm sure it's possible to bring Tribuna theory and leadership in your thesis. It's very much possible. We will discuss more at the right time. Good. Now, we move on with our understanding on the Trigunas by discussing the specific influences of the Trigunas on aspects of human existence. These are covered in 18th and 17th and 18th chapters of Bhagavad-gita. There, Sri Bhagavan touches upon 12 aspects, how these 12 aspects of life are influenced by the three gunas. Upasya, the object of worship, ahara, food, yajna, the nature of worship, tapas or austerity, dana, charity, jnana, knowledge, karma, action, tyaga or karma tyaga, abandonment or letting go, karta, the worker, buddhi, intelligence, and dhriti, resolve, and finally sukha, happiness. So these 12 aspects of human life, how each of these is influenced by the three gunas. If we go through this, we understand better how three gunas actually influence human life. Earlier, when we talked about the general influences, we just said things like it gives more contentment, more clarity, more happiness, or more greed and more laziness, etc. But specifically, how it influences human life is seen as we go through these 12. Now, I have rearranged them in some other order so that I felt I can build a logic as to how understanding one helps understand the other. So, we begin with first how the trigunas influence happiness, or how happiness can be experienced in terms of the trigunas. And this is the topic, or this is explained or presented in the 18th chapter, shlokas 36 to 39. I'll just read out those shlokas, those four shlokas, and then explain this. So here I have the Bhagavad-gita shlokas open. I'll go to 18.36. Here I am. 18.36. Here it says, Sukham tu idanim trividham shrunu me bharatarshava abhyasat ramate yatra dukkhantam cha nigacchati. So he begins by saying that now I'll explain. Actually, Sukha is listed as the last among the 12. I am beginning with it. Why I am beginning with Sukha is because Sukha is what we are all aiming for. The ultimate purpose is to feel happy, right? That's the objective, common objective of life, to be happy. And everything that we do, all the purusharthas we pursue, they are pursued because they lead to happiness, or we think they lead to happiness. So, the three types of happiness, as they are influenced by the three gunas. So he says, now hear about me about these three types, and he begins by describing a property of the sattva guna, the happiness produced through sattva guna. Abhyasat ramate yatra dukkhantam cha nigacchati. That when one is in sattva, then one experiences joy in repeated practice. And then he builds upon this by saying, Yattadagre vishamiva pariname mrutopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. So he says that what appears like poison in the beginning, agre vishamiva. So when you start something which is sattvic, which gives you more sattva guna, like for example, waking up early in the morning and doing meditation, this appears painful. It appears difficult because you have to get out of your bed at a very early time of the day when it's possible to sleep longer. You don't have any other work at that time. Your job is not asking you to get up at that time. But you still are asked to get up because you say that meditation ke liye best time is that time, Brahma Muhurta. If I do meditation at Brahma Muhurta, it is best. There is a theory like that. So that theory is saying that you get up at this time, but you feel I can still sleep some more. So there is some pain in leaving your bed at that time, getting up, and the pain becomes even more if it is a season like the winter season. It's cold. So getting up in the cold and feeling that sharp cold on your body, at least for a few moments, is difficult. So yattad agre vishamiva, what feels like poison in the beginning, but pariname amrutopamam, but in the end it feels like nectar, amrutam. It is nectarine in its conclusion. It rewards one with the feeling of nectar. Tat sukham satvikam proktam, such happiness, happiness which has this nature, which in the beginning, when you try to go towards that happiness, feels like poison, or feels like pain, or feels like misery. But at the end, it feels like nectar, and you're so happy that you got it. That is called Satvika Sukha, and it is Atma Buddhi Prasadajam. Means it is based, it's Atma Buddhi Prasadajam. It's based in the intelligence of the true self, means it's based in the understanding that I am not this body. That theoretical understanding at least exists for a person who does that. A person to be motivated to do that kind of meditation early in the morning, or other sattvic practices like upavas on a vrata day like Ekadashi or Shivaratri, or other types of things like doing dana, which is also painful. You have to part with something valuable to yourself with a good intent without expecting anything in return. Okay, all the sattvic practices, we are going to see all of them now. All of them are based on feeling that, or all of them involve some pain in the beginning, but they lead to happiness. So, knowing this, a person does it, then that person is in a sattvic state of mind. Initially, the person may not be sattvic, maybe tamasic, so others have to push that person. And that person, because of being in a social environment or being in some state of social obligation or administrative obligation to others, may do it, thinking that, what to do, I don't have a choice, I'm doing it. But once that person starts experiencing that amritam, that sweetness, that kind of feeling, that person then doesn't have to be pushed by anyone. From inside, that motivation comes. And that shows that they are now more sattvic than before. That motivation comes from within. Atma Buddhi Prasadaju. Then that person realizes, yes, what they're saying is true. Okay, this is called Satvika Sukha. And then Sri Bhagavan then explains what is Rajasika Sukha. Vishayendriya Sanyogat Yattadagre Mritopamam Pariname Vishamiva Tat Sukham Saja Samsmritam. So you can see that he has inverted the criteria. He says Vishayendriya Sanyogat Yat Tat Agre Amritopamam. That which by the contact of the senses with its objects appears to be like nectar in the beginning. Agre Amritopamam means in the beginning, because of the sensual pleasure that it gives, it appears like nectar. For example, I had breakfast, let's say 1 hour back. I'm full. But I'm passing by the canteen and I can see hot samosas kept there. And there is time. My class is only 20 minutes later. There is enough time to have a samosa and a chai. And I see that right in front of my eyes. I didn't think about it because I'm already full with my breakfast. I had nice, bread and jam and milk and everything, and I'm full. I'm comfortable. I have no hunger and I'm going to my class, but on the way, the samosa becomes visible. Immediately, the desire comes. I should have one samosa. And I have the money, I have time. So I just go there, hey, Lala, thoda samosa de do. I have two samosas I have, and I go. Okay. It gives me so much pleasure at that point of time. And this practice of succumbing to an immediate urge gives pleasure immediately, but as I do this, it leads to pain. Pariname vishamiva. So what happens if I have a eating habit like this? Pariname vishamiva. Eventually, it causes disease. Now, agre amrutopamam also means that in the short term, for example, immediately after having the samosa, I don't feel anything. I don't feel any problem. There's no pain. The samosa also, I get a burp. I get nice burp. I drink some chai, and the chai also feels good. I go to my class. I do my class. Then shortly after that, somebody's birthday, and some cake has come. So I have the cake also after the class. And then I go back, and then there is lunch. आज लंच में कुछ स्पेशल बनाया है, पनीर का सब्जी है, पूड़ी है और गुलाब जामुन दे रहे हैं. I have that also. So like this I'm eating and slowly disease is building in my body. Right? I have no control on my eating because there's nothing to guide me. I've just succumbed to the pressure or the urge of that particular object of my sense of eating. So I'm giving the eating example because that's the sense which pulls us the most. Among the five senses, the sense of the tongue, rasana, and that which gets accomplished through eating food. That sense is the most powerful. So I'm giving that example. Now it can be used as a metaphor for all other sense pleasures too. The sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of touch. Sexual pleasure is something that results from or is driven by the sense of touch. So these kinds of pleasures, they pull us in different directions and they give pleasure at that point of time, but they cause pain later. So that is said to be Rajasic. Happiness, which is immediate, but in the long term, painful, results in pain. Finally, Yedagre cha anubandhe cha sukam mohanamatmanah nidralasya pramadottham tattamasamudahritam. So that happiness, which is not happiness at all, either in the beginning or in the end. Okay, at least in Rajasic happiness, there was some pleasure in the beginning until some point of time before it became misery, before disease came, or before the reaction for that came. It gave pleasure. But in this, it seems to be happiness always. Yad agrecha anubandecha sukham iva bhasate kintu mohanameva. Mohanam atmana. It appears like sukha, but it's completely delusive. Like nidra alasya pramadottham. Nidra means sleep. Alasya means laziness. And pramada means negligence, inadvertence, or being very casual, not paying attention to the details, not being careful, okay, neglecting, doing things in a very loose manner. So nidralasya pramadottam. So living a life where, just sleeping excessively, succumbing to the urge to sleep whenever and wherever, you feel like it. Alasya means laziness, not doing your work when it's supposed to be done, procrastinating, just, or doing work in a very shoddy manner, doing the minimum required to show that you've done something, but not doing it thoroughly and doing it very casually. All this is a symptom of tamas, and there's a certain kind of sense of, comfort in that. It's not the happiness of sattva, nor is it the happiness of rajas, but it is just a feeling of comfort. Arey, chill karo yaar, chill. Ash karo, khao piyo, ash karo, that kind of thinking. Where you just chill out, doing nothing. So, which is what many people aspire for actually. They think that retirement means that kind of happiness, where I just chill, I will not do anything, right? So, this actually is tamasa mudahata. It's completely delusion. It neither gives the benefit that rajas gives, and obviously doesn't give the benefit that sattva gives. It doesn't take us either upwards or keep us in the middle. It actually degrades us. That kind of happiness, and it's said to be tamasic happiness. So I'll go back and summarize whatever we heard in the slide. So you can see sattva, where one feels happy in the culture of systematic practice. So systematic practice, like for example said, doing tapasya of different types, early morning meditation or upavas or recitation, or doing recitation of the shlokas of Bhagavad-gita. Many people have this brata that I will recite the full Bhagavad-gita every day. There are people like that. Or I will recite the full Vishnu Sahasranamam every day, or Lalita Sahasranamam every day, or something else, Mahabharata. I will read this many chapters of Mahabharata loudly. During the Navaratri, the Chaitra Navaratri, before Ram Navami, we know that in India many people read the full Ramayana. Some people read Tulsi Ramayana, in those 9 days. They will start the first day and complete on the Ram Navami day. So this is a recitation. By repeated practice of something, one feels happy, repeatedly doing the same thing. Right? Even memorization. Memorization was an important thing in the Indian knowledge system. Memorizing shlokas, sutras, memorizing the Vyakhya itself. And so memory became very strong. Human memory was very strong in that culture because everything depended, all learning drew heavily on memorization. And today's modern education condemns that. They don't memorize, be creative, things like that. So creativity is a different thing. Memorization is a different thing. They are not opposites of each other. So memorization actually favors creativity. You see our scholars, the acharyas, the many scholars, they're so creative. The Kalidasa, for example, his poetry is beautiful creativity, extraordinary creativity. So he's also a person who has memorized things, right? Memorization was part of his life. Memorization and creativity go together. They are not opposites. But today it's misunderstood like that. Okay, anyway, so going forward, Sattva Guna favors those things and comes from those things. It seems like poison in the beginning, but feels like nectar at the end. And it brings clarity in one's mind and intelligence. Rajas, we heard, it comes from the contact. The happiness of Rajas comes from the contact of one's senses with their objects, and seems like nectar in the beginning, but feels like poison at the end. And tamas is completely delusive in nature. It seems like happiness throughout, but it's not happiness at all. It is mistaken happiness. It's what we mistake to be happiness, which is not happiness at all. It is just suffering, and it comes from all. It shows up in all these things. Good. Any follow-up question here before I go to the next one? Either Ashita or Sarthak. Okay, nothing. So I'll go forward. Next is Ahara. So I have kept this second because our pursuit of happiness being the ultimate goal, that should decide what we do in terms of all the other 11. Okay, the other 11 can be seen as different types of actions that we take towards different aspects of life. And the most fundamental among those 11 is ahar, food. I would say that among all the things that influence our thinking, our decision making, our health, our well-being, everything. Life is shaped by food more than anything else. That our decisions related to our food shape all our other things in life. So we can go into a lot of detail here, but first I'll summarize what we hear from Bhagavad Gita, and then we can talk about this in more detail. So I'll go back to Gita 17.8 to 10. I'll read the shlokas first. We'll go to 17.8. Here we are. So Shri Bhagavan, he describes the three types of food. He says, Ayus Sattva Balarogya Sukha Priti Vivardhanaha Rasya Snigdhas Tirahridyaha Ahara Satvika Priyaha. So he's using different properties of food which make it sattvic. He says, Ayu Sattva Balarogya, that which increases our lifespan, it increases our enthusiasm. Bala means uh, bodily strength, Arogya, good health. Then Sukha, contentment, inner contentment, the sense of being enough. I don't need more than this. Preeti means the feeling of affection towards others. And Preeti Vivardhana. These are all increased by food which is sattvic, the influence of the food which is sattvic. And such food is rasya, means it's very juicy. Rasa means juiciness. Rasaha also is used to refer to juice, fluid, liquid, or even water. Rasyaha means juicy food, food which is not hard and dry. This becomes more rajasic food. Snigdha means which has some fat, grease containing. Okay? So some amount of ghee, for example, it's common in our Indian food eating habits to add desi ghee, the ghee from the desi go to it, right? It's considered very healthy. A little bit of ghee is added because it helps in um, increasing the fire of digestion, Agni, Jataragni, right? Snigdha, the food which is fatty, not heavily fatty, but which has some fat. Stiraha, that which is firm in nature, means it's not arbitrary. It's not like some loose food, food which is well defined, properly cooked food, stiraha. And pleasant, hridyaha, pleasant after consuming, does not lead to burning sensation, feeling of something stabbing inside after I had it. No, it feels very pleasant. At the end of having that sattvic meal, one feels good, one feels nice. The nice feeling, leftover feeling is very nice. All such food is sattvic in nature. It is sattvika priyaha, means it's very dear to those who are in sattva guna. And so it is sattvic in nature. Then rajasic food is like this. Katvamla lavanatyushna tikshna rukshavidahinah. Katvamla lavanatyushna tikshna rukshavidahinah. So even the words sound very rajasic, right? Ahara sattvas, ahara rajasasyeshtaha dukkashokamaya Katvamla lavanatyushna tikshna rukshavidahinah. Ahara rajasasyeshtaha dukkashokamaya. So foods which are very bitter, katu means very bitter food, food which is too sour, amla, which is too salty, lavana, very hot, ati ushna, very sharp or pungent, very tikshna, very dry, ruksha. Ruksha means very dry food, which is devoid of all juiciness or fat, which is burning or thirst producing, vidahi. Dahi means produces thirst, vidahi, which burns, which creates a burning sensation, is dukkha shoka maya pradaha. They impart misery in the long run. They give pleasure in the short run. We heard about sukha, which is rajasic in nature. So this kind of food, for example, very namkeen food, food which is filled with chilies. Some people like food which is filled with chilies, right? I've seen my friends asking for more chili in that burger they had. A patty बनाया है, patty में कुछ भी मिर्ची नहीं डाली है. When I put it in my mouth, I'm burning. Like I go, बहुत ज़्यादा मिर्ची है. My friend is saying कुछ भी नहीं है, इसमें और थोड़ा डाल दो. So there's a difference between different people's tastes. Of course, I'm not saying I'm more sattvic and he's rajasic, but I'm just giving an example to say how the rajasic tongue demands, you know, excess of all of these things. Something that is more bitter, very sour, okay, very dry, like dry namkeen. Sometimes it's very hard to also bite, but it gives certain kind of pleasure in eating like that. So such kind of food is rajasic in nature. So food which is not very difficult to consume, it's easy to chew that food. It's not very hard. Okay, sometimes we find even the roti which is made somewhere. The roti is very difficult to chew. It's very hard or it's very elastic in nature. It's not you're not able to chew it. It doesn't form a nice, you know, paste in the mouth. You're chewing it, but it's not going. So somehow you then swallow it because you don't have a choice. You already put it inside the mouth. So you chew it a few times and then you find it's difficult and you just swallow it up. So such kind of food is rajasic in nature. It is not good for health, and in the long run, it will cause ill health. In the short run, it produces pleasure. Yatayamam gatarasam puti paryushitam chayat uchishthamapi chamedhyam bhojanam tamasapriyam. Yatayama means one yama is defined as 3 hours. Yama is also prahara. It's called prahara, and a day is said to have 8 praharas. Ashtapraharikam dinam. So one yama means 3 hours, and roughly approximately 3 hours. And yata yama means food which has been kept for more than 3 hours after cooking. Okay, food which is not fresh is tamasic. Gata rasam is devoid of its natural taste. Not only food which is not juicy, but it has no taste left in it. So this you can experience. For example, if you keep a sweet, see there are many sweets which don't get spoiled, what we call spoiled, within a day or something. Some sweets get spoiled within a day, like milk sweets. But certain types of sweets, like you take for example a petha, adra ka petha, which you must be getting more in your region, or you take a sweet like even sweets like Mysore pak, where the milk component is very low or not existing. Mysore pak is not normally made with milk; it's just made with ghee and chana dal ka paste, besan and stuff like that, sugar. Certain other sweets which are not involving milk-like substances, they last for a long time. They can be kept for several days. But if you keep them for a long time, what happens is the taste you got on the first day when you got them fresh is no longer there, and you'll barely feel the taste of that original sweet. The same with namkeen also. You can have namkeen after a long time. After 1 month also, there are some types of mixture you can eat. It is not spoiled. It can still be eaten, but it feels like you're eating some paper or something, plastic or something. It doesn't feel like that same namkeen that you bought, right? So this is after a long time. But here it says just 3 hours is enough to call it non-sattvic. It is becoming tamasic. Its tamas starts entering into it the moment it's more than 3 hours old. Okay, so even our daily food like chapati, rice, sabji, if it's more than 3 hours of time, then it becomes tamasic. Tamas starts entering into it. It's devoid of its natural taste. It is smelly. Puti means smelly, means it's having a bad smell. Okay? Like alcohol, fermented food which is having, because people who like that, they drink alcohol. They like that smell of alcohol. Somebody who is sattvic, if the smell of alcohol is brought near them, they may feel like vomiting because it's so repulsive to them, right? But somebody who's tamasic, they like that smell. They want to go towards it. Unless they get that smell, they don't feel they are eating something enjoyable, consuming something enjoyable. They want that. Similarly, non-veg, especially meat, raw meat, and meat is cooked with certain types of substances which make it get a particular smell. The smell of non-veg, some people are very attracted to. That smell makes them feel, very hungry. They crave for that, right? So that is called puti here, smelly. It is stale. Staleness we understand. And one more thing is uchishtam, means food that somebody else has made juta. In India we say juta, right? In Hindi. Uchishtam. Somebody else has already put their mouth or touched their tongue to it. It's called juta. Or even hand, not just tongue, but Suppose somebody has been eating something, and with that same hand with which they have been eating, they touch some food. So even though that food has not touched their tongue, that's also considered as juta, and that should not be touched. The only place where that is permitted, juta is permitted, is when the guru has tasted. If one's own guru, one's gurudev, okay, whom we consider guru is considered as equivalent to Bhagavan himself. So if guru has touched the food with his tongue or with a hand which is juta, then that food is not considered as tamasic. Apart from that, anybody else has touched it, even our own, let's say, some close friend or somebody, that is also juta. That should not be touched. Or is impure in some way because some dirty thing has fallen into it, some insect has fallen into it, or some dirty object has fallen into it, then that should not be touched. All of that is tamasic food. So, tamasic food, sattvic food, rajasic food is nicely explained here, and I've summarized the same in the slide here. Any follow up questions? We can talk a lot more about food. We can actually have 2, 3 sessions on how food should be consumed, sattvic food. I'm sure Sarthak also will be able to share some experiences on this from the ashram. In the ashram, they serve sattvic food. Am I right, Sarthak?
Yes, sir. Predominantly the food is sattvic, but they are not too rigorous on adhering to sattvic norms, as in onion garlic is not present. So that is there. But sometimes even I was surprised to see that some devotee had brought some samosas from the market and had asked Swamiji to distribute as prasad. So it's not too strict in that sense. But
Yeah.
yes, it is sattvic
Yes,
to
yes.
some extent.
Yeah. So even though we do that, we consume samosa or some sweet from the sweet shop. That is rajasic in nature. It uses immediate pleasure and so on. Uh, it's because in the sadhana stage we accept some extent of rajasic food as well. Although it is highly advised to be sattvic only, strictly be very sattvic, produce food within 3 hours, consume that food and so on. All sadhakas don't follow it because of the history that we have. We still have inertia, means we have been through so many lifetimes of being in the samsara. And overnight, if all forms of pleasure is cut off, then it may be too difficult to accommodate that. Our psychology will find it too difficult to accommodate. That is why, because particularly also because food, you see, if somebody is abstaining from other forms of pleasure like sexual pleasure or pleasure like seeing, television serials or watching cinema and so on, that craving also will be there, but it is not so difficult to overcome as compared to the craving for food. Craving for good food is the most strong craving, strongest of all cravings. It's most difficult to overcome this craving, and therefore, sometimes having a samosa from the market or having something that's a little more spicy than what would be considered as purely sattvic, having something with more salt in it, or having something that's a little hotter than usual is accepted, but in regulated measure. If some such a person, a sadhaka, lives only on junk food like samosa and chaat and pizzas and burgers, then obviously his sadhana will not go forward. But once in a while, if that person has that, it's fine. It's a balance. Predominantly sattvic food, but sometimes some rajasic food also is accommodated. So in the path of bhakti, in the bhakti marg, all food is meant to be offered to Bhagwan for having it, at least in the mind. Okay, in some places, some people offer it to Bhagwan more explicitly. They will make a plate. There's a separate plate kept for Bhagwan, and on that plate, the food will be prepared and first kept on that plate. That plate will not be touched to any other thing. That plate will be kept in a pure place. It will be washed in a separate place. It will be treated as a completely different item because it's Bhagwan's plate. And like Bhagwan's plate, there will be Bhagwan's glasses and spoons and everything. All dishes are only for that purpose. And in some places, I've seen in temples, but not only in temples, in houses also, I've seen people doing this. Even the cooking vessels will be vessels which will not touch the plates on which we eat the food. They will be kept separately. So food is being cooked only for Bhagavan, not for us. But after offering to Bhagavan, that food we take as prasad. So because of that, we say that that food which is offered to Bhagavan has become nirguna, because Bhagavan is nirguna. And when Bhagavan tastes food, he makes it nirguna by touching, by Bhagavan's accepting that food becomes nirguna, it becomes his prasad. Before offering it to him, it's not called prasad, it's called bhoga. What we call as bhoga, or what we cook is bhoga. Bhoga is offered to Bhagavan, and after it's offered to him, when we take it back, it's called prasad. That prasad is nirguna in nature. And with that prasad, we say that when we consume that prasad in a proper manner with respect, then that prasad helps us to become sattvic, and it actually helps us to become vishuddha sattvic. It takes us out of even sattva guna, it takes us beyond. It destroys our rajas and tamas and takes us out of that. But there too, a caution is applied that there, if it's not consumed properly, means we overeat. Overeating is also not sattvic. That's not mentioned here. We're only talking about the nature of the food. But overeating of food, even sattvic food, is not sattvic, right? Or eating at the wrong time. If somebody says, I will eat at 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay, no, 1 o'clock in the morning is not a time for eating. You're supposed to eat only when the sun is up, right? Not eat before sunrise or after sunset. Of course, because of our modern lifestyle, eating after sunset is become a norm now. We eat at 8 o'clock in the night, etc. But still, it's easy to practice not eating before sunrise. That's quite easy because many of us, first of all, wake up only after sunrise. And even if those who wake up before sunrise, they can comfortably hold on till after sunrise. It's not so difficult. If you get up at 4 o'clock or even 3 o'clock in the morning by drinking water and things like that, you can tolerate. So, therefore, eating in the wrong times, even sattvic prasad, is not sattvic, it can be harmful. So, eating the quantity that we eat, how we eat that food, while eating, the food should be eaten in a very calm state of mind. Slowly, the food should not be gulped down. Okay, now, for example, when I am a student, okay, sometimes this may happen in a student's life. Now, the class is about to begin and the mess is open only for 5 more minutes. I have to grab the food and just rush to the class. So then you go there and then you have to eat 2 chapatis or 3 chapatis, you just gulp it down. Just stuff it into your mouth, gulp down, and then run. That kind of eating is not to be done. Eating should take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, normal time. Slowly chew the food. And as you chew the food, think about pleasant thoughts. Think about how the food has been cooked. Think about the sattvic nature of the food. Think about the taste of the food, how it's so pleasant, how it produces a comforting feeling. It gives so much contentment in the mind. So meditating on the food, and or if you're happening to have a conversation, ideally we should not converse during eating. But if we happen to converse with somebody, which happens in today's lifestyles, then converse something pleasant, not something violent or something that is disturbing to the mind, something that's dirty, something that is uh, connected to harming somebody, or something pertaining to jealousy of somebody else, gossip. Such kind of topics should not be dealt, should not be had when eating food, because all these things influence the way the food influences us. They go with the food into our system. And food, even more than the influence it has on the body, has an influence on the mind. It has a bigger influence on our subconscious mind and conscious mind as well than the influence it has on the body. Therefore, food shapes all the decisions we make. The decisions made with sattvic food are different from the decisions made by somebody who consumes rajasic food and somebody who consumes predominantly tamasic food. And so you can bring this also into your IKS research, how food as an intervention can influence sattvic leadership, sattvic culture, and sattvic decision making in the organization. This can be definitely brought in. Good. There's much more we can talk about. I sort of, for want of time, I also went a little fast here. Sarthak?
Sir, if we have maybe say 2, 3 minutes, and
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you allow,
sure.
I would like to share an instance which I heard over YouTube, which is connected to this.
Yes.
So, sir, I was listening to a video. I don't remember when, but long back, I was listening to a video by uh, by one Swami of the Ramakrishna Math, and
Mm.
he was talking about a very advanced sannyasi of that order who was a very simple fellow though. So he talked about that there was some special prasadam which was prepared daily, and it was some sweet, some mango sweet something, and it was offered to Bhagwan as prasadam. I think maybe say Sri Ramakrishna pronounced, but I don't know. But it was offered as prasadam, and then the devotees would take it, and then there was one glass which would be so there would be a schedule that okay, today is your turn to take that glass, today is your turn to take that glass. So something like that. So that prasadam, the every day one person that you please come and have prasadam, and the remaining would be from the bigger vessel. Everyone else would be served. So this is of the setting of a, a strong summer setting, and this dessert was this drink was. Sweet and very cold, so very soothing. It gives a very soothing effect. So when this advanced sannyasi's turn was there, and he was asked to have it, so he took some. It was some lassi or something. So he took some, drank it, drank a little, and then he said that yes, if you want, you can give it to someone else also if someone is feeling something like. So then people asked him that, oh, Maharaj, do you not like it? Do you not like it? That is why you are. He said, no, no, I like it. That is why I am saying that I'll not have more.
Yeah, good, good. So he has reached that level of maturity where he's able to reject something that he finds very pleasurable, comfortably.
Yes,
Comfortably reject it and not feel a regret for rejecting it. He's happy about rejecting it. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes,
So this is a maturity that comes as one makes progress in spiritual life. As sadhana progresses, one feels good about doing such things, like the sannyasi did here. Good.
yes, sir.
Ashita, do you have anything to add to that or any questions to ask?
Sir, for food cravings, I have observed this like in my personal life.
Hmm.
So when I've started eating soaked dry fruits, fried dry fruits, and soaked seeds, and
Hmm.
whenever so this I do on daily basis, and I don't skip on any meal. So I don't crave much for the food, like for junk food or for pizzas or pasta, and I feel more energetic. And
Hmm.
so I have a sweet tooth, but when I eat fruits and especially those five soaked dry fruits, so I don't even crave for that as well. So
Nice.
I have experienced this personally. But what is conflicting for me is that in terms of sleep, my ophthalmologist has suggested me to sleep for 10 hours because I have some eye issues and all those things. But
Right.
whenever I sleep for, let's say, 9 hours or 10 hours, so when I wake up, my entire head is like, I get like, it's not, I get very headache and entire day I feel very lazy. I don't feel like doing anything, and I kind of, it takes a lot of effort to orient what is happening around.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what should I do, because sometimes like I should take care of my eyes and follow what doctor is saying, but at the other hand, I am not liking the feeling of sleeping for 10 hours and then feeling lazy the entire day.
Why is the doctor saying sleep for 10 hours for eye benefit? How does it benefit the eye? The doctor's logic is what?
So basically, my cornea is very small, and I have a thin cornea, and my cylinder is very small. So he suggests me to take good care of my eyes, sleep for 10 hours, drink plenty of water, don't use a screen after 7 p.m., and all those things.
Well, when do you suppose you go to sleep without thinking about 10 hours or any number of hours? You just go to sleep naturally at night and you naturally wake up without setting any alarm. Then how long will you sleep to wake up? I mean, after how much time will you naturally wake up? What does your body naturally demand?
Actually, without alarm, I wake up in around 6.5 hours.
Okay, then what are you doing? You sleep for then 3.5, 4 hours more because ophthalmologist just said it. You deliberately make yourself sleep.
So when I don't have, like, I'm done with the submissions and I don't have anything to do, I try sleeping for 3 hours more. But then when I've observed this, when I sleep for 3 hours more and wake up, I like that entire day is wasted and unproductive.
Yeah, yeah. So which means you have to force yourself to sleep that 3, 4 hours more, which
Mm.
naturally your body does not demand for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, how does that actually benefit the eye? It's not clear to me because I see one thing that I know from a medical point of view is that sleep is a time when the body repair function happens during sleep. So sleep is important. When we sleep, it's only, for example, somebody does a lot of physical work, then the body feels fatigued, the muscles are tired. The muscles, they need recovery. Muscles actually get damaged when work happens. Okay, although we don't say the muscles are injured, we say there is a certain tissue damage which happens. Now those tissues have to recover, and all
Mm.
the normal functioning of the muscles has to be restored. Sleep is where that happens best. It doesn't happen so well when we are awake. Even if we are not doing any work, sitting quietly, but we are awake, that doesn't happen. So sleep is required. So similarly in disease, when body cures, see, all disease actually is not cured by medicine. Medicine is only a what you call a facilitator. The actual cure is done by the body itself. The body has internal mechanism for cure, right? So all disease is cured by the body's own internal mechanisms for any disease, even cancer. But it's the medicine which just fosters the process of that cure. That's all. So sleep is where that happens. When one sleeps, then that disease, the curing of the disease, the body is able to devote all the resources to that during the sleep time. So this way, there may be a logic to say that for rectifying the defect in the eye, one must sleep more. I can't see any other logic beyond that. I don't know if there is any other logic which connects sleep with curing the shortcoming in the eye. But if you are feeling this way, then I think you should tell this to your doctor and discuss with him. Intuitively, to me, it seems like uh, probably you should not force yourself to sleep more than when the natural craving for sleep is not there, only because the doctor has said it. I don't think you should do that. Probably you should follow all the other things that he's saying, like drink more water and don't strain your eye too much. For example, by watching some videos and so on, or give relaxation to the eyes, or do other relaxing exercises that yoga teaches. Yoga has its own processes for improving eyesight and for uh, you know, rectifying this myopic vision or hypermetropic vision. Yoga has exercises. You'll find videos on that, what kind of eye exercises should be done. So doing those exercises are not harmful. Because even if they don't benefit you, they will not harm you. So you can try them out. And those things you can do, but I think only the sleep part you should once discuss with your doctor. Why is it really essential? And tell him that it's having a negative effect on you in other ways. So can you avoid that? I personally think you should sleep only what your natural craving to sleep is, like 6 hours or 7 hours or whatever it is.
Yes, and because whenever my eyes feel strained, so that entire day I don't use phone, I don't work on laptop at all. Like, it is digital detox for me, and I try doing it on a weekly basis, like whenever submissions are not there. So,
Oh, nice.
but then sleeping part I'm not able to inculcate, and actually I feel my body doesn't require that also.
Right. Yeah. Your body doesn't require it, then don't give it more sleep. It's a good thing that you're able to do with only 6.5 to 7 hours, or maybe sometimes 6 hours only, because that's also a sign of being more sattvic. And it goes along with the other things you're doing, like the diet. You just described your diet to me, so it goes along with that. A person who follows that kind of diet is expected to, experience less sleep, the need for sleep. People who drink alcohol, or naturally, alcohol makes you intoxicated, but even people who don't drink alcohol but have a very tamasic eating habit, like eating a lot of junk food, the heavy food like burgers, pizzas, and so on, can be expected to require more sleep. They probably they feel the requirement for 9 hours, 10 hours of sleep. You
Yes.
can verify that with other friends of yours who might be having such habits. You can ask them how much sleep they feel the need for.
Yes, sir. Actually, I am observing this in my batch.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I've also seen my friends telling me there is no need of working this hard. Like you
Mhm.
just do it for the sake of finishing it and
Mhm.
all those things. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
that is I think your maturity level, your understanding.
yeah, yeah. Good. So you're able to hold that thing away. You're able to keep it away. And that's also a very positive thing in you. And you should, if you continue like this, you'll see even more benefit as you go along this road. It's already come into you through your past practices, your past exposure, and probably your past samskara as well, from your past life as well. You have a
Yeah.
natural attraction towards it.
But Vedangi is a very positive influence, I believe.
Okay.
Because she's very hardworking, so she inspires me also. In fact, for that matter, Kiran also, like the way she manages everything. And she is able to manage and keep up with the pace of the coursework. I think that is commendable.
Nice. That's very nice. So you would want to keep the company of such people more and more, right?
Yes.
All three of you are a natural group. Nice.
And
Good.
sir, also for food, I've seen that. So whenever if I crave for chole bhature, so
Mhm.
my mother makes it like very delicious in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So and I eat one. So I think that way it's good to go. It's manageable and balances out everything. So I believe that if we
Yeah.
can make these pastas and pizza at home and then have it, it's very tasty, like more tasty than we have outside. So I think
Right.
it also influences our lifestyle.
Absolutely. I fully concur with you. Make it at home whenever you feel a craving. Only if it's impossible to even make it at home, but the craving is still very strong, then you may source it from a place which is relatively more sattvic. For example, in Jamshedpur, there is a place called Dasa Prakash, there's a restaurant. I'm just giving you the idea because sometimes we source from there. So their food is relatively very sattvic compared to many other places. They're able to make it with, and we tell them we don't, they also don't use onion garlic for many of their items, and they easily, they're very willing to do it because they know that a lot of people don't take it. They're very willing to do it without onion garlic and supply it to us. So we tell them and they make it in a very sattvic way. When we have it, we can feel that it is, yeah, it is like the kind of taste that we like. It's not that spicy and salty and very tamasic kind of thing. So such times you can also go outside. There's nothing wrong in going outside in an absolute sense. But yes, whenever you can, make it at home. It will be very clean. The cleanliness can also be ensured by making it at home. And your mind influences. We say that the mind of the cook influences the guna in the food. So a person with a sattvic mentality cooks the food, then sattva guna is more in that food than if a person with a tamasic mentality. So food is a very intricate kind of a concept in the Indian knowledge system. And you are experiencing the benefit of that, right? From
Yes, sir.
experience, you know that there is truth in this. Yeah. Good discussion. I think we should build on this. Probably we can develop even more writing with this. Once your coursework is over, we can probably work on developing more written content as well for the benefit of other students. We can develop some workshops and so on for them. Good. So today shall we stop here? Also well beyond time. I just close the with the Antamangalam. Om स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे धन्यवाद थैंक यू